guardian angels. Who are they? How can we talk to them, connect with them, and why do they protect us? Yaroslav, hello.
Hello, Margarita.
Let's talk about guardian angels. I believe this is a very intimate, interesting, and truly useful topic. All at the same time, the idea of spiritual protection is present in almost all cultures and traditions. These can be guardian angels or they can be other figures who protect us. But why is humanity talking about guardian angels now? Why is this still relevant today?
Well, actually, according to my research, which I conducted through the Akashic records and through some of my own experiences, interactions with subtle energies, for me, this is no longer just some myths or things perhaps related to faith, but rather a certain fact. Are you serious? Every person, every soul that comes into this world has a certain kind of guidance. Every soul has invisible mentors. In Christianity, they are called guardian angels. In other traditions, I think they are called something else. You can call them teachers, you can call them a support team. These are the entities that help the soul go through its journey, which it chooses before birth, following the plan as precisely as possible, strictly adhering to the map the soul has laid out for itself in order to gain certain experiences and, ultimately, to move on to a new branch of its own evolution. And they help with this. They help by arranging certain circumstances. They help by constantly sending signs that guide a person in a certain direction. And in other ways as well, they can intervene in a person's life under certain conditions.
You mentioned the word entities. So what does that mean? Are they personalities or are they energy?
They are personalities that have an energetic form. For example, we have a physical form, and they have an energetic form. Each of these personalities represents certain qualities that a person needs in a particular area of life in order to achieve success in that area. Well, by success, I don't just mean material success. Success here means gaining the experience that helps you grow and unlock your potential. And these angels, there are those who accompany a person throughout their entire life, and there are others who appear when it's necessary to solve a particular problem at a certain stage of life. Then they may leave, and others may come in their place to help solve the next set of challenges. So each of these entities, if we can call them that, is responsible for certain energies, for certain qualities.
So there could be, so to speak, a whole team of them.
Yes, for some people at certain stages of life, there really can be a lot of them, almost like a football team.
But why is that? Maybe it's some kind of, like injustice where one person has just one guardian angel and someone else needs a whole team like that. What is that connected to? Is it about the tasks?
Yes, it's connected to the number of tasks a person currently faces. It's related with the volume, with how difficult and extensive each of these tasks is. So, in fact, all of this happens according to the laws of the universe, and everything is distributed very harmoniously.
So theoretically, can a person, let's say, request additional guardian angels if they feel the need? Or does it not work that way?
A person doesn't actually decide. They can make a request, but most likely, if a person truly needs what they are asking for, then it will be given to them. And yes, higher powers will provide, even if the person hasn't asked.
We're talking about angels, guardians, and the word guardians means that they protect, they safeguard. But based on what you just said, they perform other functions as well, not just protective ones.
Actually, I think that word, guardians, really limits our perception of these beings, these mentors. I prefer the word mentors because they really help us, they accompany us, they guide us on our true path. And that's why the word guardians is probably not entirely relevant. I think for some people, it resonated with them because people were asking for a certain kind of protection. In some difficult situations like now, I think so too. Many people turn to them asking for protection during the war, but that's just one of the functions they can perform. They can help in any area of life, for example, by giving strength. If a person is currently in a difficult life situation and needs strength to overcome hardships, they can provide that strength. It could be the energy of inspiration if a person is creative, has creative potential to unlock, or is engaged in creating works of art. It could be Jan Holokoronets, who he gives this energy of inspiration. That's why people say the muse has come. So it's simply an invisible mentor transmitting the energy of inspiration, and the person receives this energy.
So you could say that every person is never truly alone.
100%. Loneliness is an illusion dictated by our mind. If our mind starts to dominate over the soul, over our consciousness, we can drive ourselves very deep into the dark corners of this reality that unfolds within us in our own heads. That's why it's very important for the soul to dominate over the mind. That is, our consciousness, our true self, should dominate over the mind. And not the mind telling us what to do, but we telling it what task needs to be solved right now. Just like with artificial intelligence. We say, give me a suggestion, make a plan, for example. A plan for how to get to a certain city. In the same way, we should use our mind, but we shouldn't be its hostages.
When we reach out and offer a sincere request to angels or to mentors, let us perhaps refer to them in that way, not as mere guardians, but as true mentors. We are still utilizing, so to speak, the complex faculties of the human mind. Because we have some kind of life plan, we have events that happen, we understand what will occur. Thank you. Let's put it this way. Today, during the day, and we want to make a request for some help. Are we using our mind or are we using what?
When we need help, we use our inner intention. Inner intention is the determining factor in who we connect with and from whom we receive information, help, and energy. This is our attention. Where we direct it, that's where the energy flows, that's where we as if connect and start receiving from there.
And how does inner intention differ from a request made from the mind? That is, a request from the mind. Can you explain this as if it were the same request, so to speak, but on the platform of the mind and on the platform of such inner intention?
Yes, it's very simple. If you say something out loud, for example, I turn to my guardian angel asking them to help me resolve this situation. But at the same time, you're thinking, did I forget to turn off the iron, or is there something else on my mind? Something is cooking on the stove, so your inner intention is not actually present in this request?
Yes, I see what you're talking about. How do you combine these things? Because it's really about what you feel here and now, about what you're thinking about, and how you act. All of this needs to be brought together into one coherent, non-contradictory structure, and then it will be real, your intention.
You just need to approach it consciously to try to keep your attention on what we're doing right now. If we turn to our mentors, we need to be present here and now in this act of addressing them with our consciousness. That is, to think about what we are saying if we are speaking out loud. And this is a great practice. If it's hard for us to keep our attention, it's better to speak out loud, because when we feel and hear the sound, it's easier for us to focus on what we're saying.
That's helpful, really. Thank you for that. Then tell me, please, does every person have the right to address angels or mentors? And can we even talk about having some kind of right to do this at all?
You need to understand that this is a right every person has from birth, and they are actually very happy when people reach out to them, our mentors, because that's their mission, that's their function, that's how they fulfill themselves by helping us. But they are very limited when we don't ask them. They have a very limited range of influence, which does not go beyond the boundaries of our free will. They do not have the right to violate a person's freedom of will. And when we consciously turn to them, we say, yes, here, I can't handle this on my own. Here, I need your help. Please, make it so that it is easier for me to get through this situation. Make it so that I can somehow understand how to act correctly. In other words, we give them more authority. Then they can do more for us. But it's important to understand that they won't help with any of our desires that don't align with our soul's path, or that could harm us or other people. In other words, they act according to the laws of the universe, and they won't break those laws just to fulfill some whim of ours. Then,
by the way, this can actually be an interesting marker when you make a request and you see a response, so to speak, from the universe, or you don't see one, right?
Yes, yes. For example, if you start noticing certain signs, you can understand that you are being guided in some way. And in fact, these signs are happening all the time. They occur in every person's life, but not everyone pays attention to them, and not everyone can, first of all, notice the signs, and not everyone can interpret these signs correctly for themselves to understand them. And this is also a separate kind of art, a unique way of interacting with our mentors, because it is precisely they who arrange for these signs to come into our lives through seemingly random situations, through a phrase from a book, through a scene from a movie that starts certain processes within us, through a person who also said or did something. And this also triggered certain processes.
In many cultures, they also talk about the protection of the family line, about ancestors as protectors. What can you say about this? Are these the same individuals, or is it some other structure?
These are different individuals, it's a different energy structure, because mentors can actually accompany a soul for more than one lifetime. There are mentors who can accompany for several lifetimes in a row. To be with this soul, there may be some global mission that spans several of these lives, while the ancestral system is given for just one life. That is, the soul may be born into one ancestral system this time. In another life, it may incarnate into a different ancestral system. And the ancestral system works in such a way that the people who lived, who were part of this ancestral system, they build certain energy channels. That is, their lives are certain energy channels through which divine energy flows, the energy of blessings, the energy of support, to the person who is now at the bottom of this ancestral system and from above as well. This energy, as it flows down to this person, to the descendants. And this is how the mechanism of the lineage works. And mentors, they directly accompany, they directly intervene in certain situations. So here it's a bit different. It's a different energy structure.
In our culture, there are many holidays during which we seem to invite our ancestors to a dialogue. And if we talk about the kinds of questions we can address to them, what are they?
The greatest benefit you can receive from your ancestors is their blessing. You can ask your parents for a blessing, you can ask your grandmother or grandfather for a blessing. This is a very valuable tool. It is an extraordinarily potent and highly influential energy channel that can truly help you manifest and bring into physical reality your most ambitious, magnificent, and expansive large-scale desires and goals. Again, if they align with your soul's plan, if they won't somehow hinder or harm you, then these blessings will work very powerfully, greatly strengthening your aspirations. I have experienced this myself many times. Thank you. The power of blessings is incredible. And if we receive this power, we can do incredible things. And
can they pass their blessings on to us even if they haven't had experience realizing the issue that is being asked about?
yes, we can really receive certain experiences from people in our ancestral system who have had this particular experience. And we can also simply receive energy, this energy of blessing, which nourishes us no matter what. It doesn't matter what we need, it's just like an energetic resource that gives us the strength to make it happen. And
you said that mentors are interested in cooperating with us. And is our ancestral system interested in cooperating with us?
yes, they are also interested because it's like a single organism. And in fact, if one element of this organism evolves, then the whole organism evolves along with it. Well, at the very least, as it is said in the Vedic scriptures, that's 7 generations in one direction. That is, up to the ancestors and 7 generations in the other direction to the descendants, they are purified and evolve, together with the element that was able to make this leap in its development.
Tell me, please, how does this happen in practice through the Akashic records if we talk about it? A person comes to you and says, I have a certain request, I would like to learn. To gain this experience, vision, and communication, whether with their mentors or if we are now talking about the ancestral structure, what do you do?
Well, if a person comes for training, then during the training process, the person themselves begins to communicate with their mentors. The person starts working with their ancestral system. There are a lot of aspects involved. which can be harmonized within the ancestral system in order to receive the greatest benefit, the maximum energy that flows to us through the ancestral system. And I provide these practices to people during the training. If a person comes to me for a session, they can communicate with their mentors through me as a guide. And we also work with the ancestral system if the issue the person has come with lies within this area.
And how can one tell that these are not just psychological projections, but a real process in which the person has truly received both help and communication with their mentors, with higher powers?
In fact, for the person, it could be a psychological projection that we are reprogramming, and in this way, we change certain situations in the person's life, which they couldn't resolve before, which kept repeating, but after receiving certain information through me, after receiving certain energy harmonizations, the person goes through this lesson. The person understands what this situation meant for them, and this situation stops repeating in their life.
So basically, just during your session, so to speak, right?
Yes, exactly. It doesn't matter. A person can perceive this as psychology, NLP, or something else. A person might believe in angels, or they might believe in something else, like aliens. What matters is that this process happens internally, that the person accepts the information and the changes I am conveying to them. And when a person genuinely accepts this within themselves, those changes begin to take effect. It's like we're installing a certain program into a computer, which then starts to harmonize the processes. And
Now let's talk about the rules. The rules of interaction on a day-to-day level, let's say, and in the master's office with their mentors. Do they even exist at all?
in fact, if a person truly wants to establish this contact, if they want to receive support that is greater than, let's say, just on an automatic level, a sincere inner intention is needed. Sincerity and faith, trust, and an inner intention so that the person truly wants and is ready to accept what will be given to them. Because sometimes it happens that someone comes to me for a consultation and I convey certain information from the guides, but the person says, oh, that's not what I wanted to hear. Because the person was expecting something that would be comfortable for them, but the guides might say, no, you need to go into some difficult situation where your potential will unfold. You will be solving some complex problems. It won't be easy for you, but this is the path of your soul, so go ahead, be bold. And not everyone is ready for this. So here perhaps you also need to accept something like humility. And I've noticed that the people who come to me for sessions, for consultations, who take careful notes for themselves, they make a kind of checklist, then they follow through on all of it. These people always come back because they tried to implement in their lives the recommendations they received and they saw that it works. That's why they come back. Those people who treat this process very lightly, unseriously, they can't get the full effect, those treasures, which they could actually receive from this process, from communicating with their mentors, from communicating with their higher self. Well,
Yes, and this I really want something can actually block things in reality, your well-being. And you might not even know about it, that it's already on the horizon, but you really want something else, and that actually becomes your obstacle.
even if we take a material example, a person might want a certain car, a Mercedes, but life has prepared a Bentley. But if a person limits reality with their own primitive desires, they might also limit something greater that they actually deserve.
And by the way, this also applies to how you formulate your request, so that it doesn't manifest in a limiting or restrictive manner, or impose unnecessary boundaries and constraints for yourself in any way.
Yes, the request can be something like, I want to resolve a certain situation in my life in the most favorable way for everyone. Not just for me, but for everyone, because often in various life situations, it's not just us who are involved. And there are other people who perhaps we don't really like. Maybe they're our competitors or even our enemies. But if we ask for the situation to be resolved in the most favorable way for all participants involved, then we truly receive support, because higher powers only act in this way.
And it really is possible to receive help in a way that is good for everyone. Because, in fact, almost always people's interests intersect with one another.
Yes, it is true that they do indeed intersect. And the ultimate solution will not necessarily always be something that every single person is going to be thrilled about, but in the end, it will nevertheless bring a significant amount of benefit. If we choose to entrust a significant personal issue or concern of ours, or even our very fate, into the hands of the higher powers of the universe, then we must be ready for the outcome, to accept the result that, in the end, comes with it.
Can we say that such spiritual help, spiritual protection, and guidance do not relieve us of responsibility for our own lives?
They do not remove responsibility because, in the end, no matter what hints we receive, no matter what advice we get, no matter how circumstances turn out, the final decision will always be ours. And still, there are situations where you won't even be given a specific hint. Even your intuition won't give you a clear answer whether to go right or left, because there are situations in which you have to learn to make a choice. And in such situations, you have to choose for yourself which way to go. And actually, here's a little secret. In such situations, there are no mistakes. If you make a decision not under the influence of other people or some external factor, but simply choose for yourself the way you feel, it won't be a mistake. Neither one, nor the other, nor the second, nor the third decision. You will always get the result that is favorable for you. Even if it is difficult, maybe not entirely comfortable, but still, thank you. This path, when you make decisions yourself, will lead you where you need to go.
When you say where you need to go, what do you mean?
This signifies that it will lead you directly to the experience that is absolutely essential and vital for you as a spirit, in order to grow, to evolve, and to fully awaken the hidden potential residing deep within you, because that is the very profound and ultimate purpose of our existence.
So we communicate with our guides, make requests, develop our intuition, and make our own choices.
Yes,